So I am excited to speak with you about this Soul Station project because I saw it make its live debut, I'm going to say more than 5 years ago at the Roxy here in Los Angeles. And it was very well received by that audience for what I witnessed. But frankly, it was obviously an audience made out of KISS fans for whom this music might not be totally their cup of tea or totally their area of expertise. So the obvious first question I'm sure you get asked about the Soul Station project is what made you want to do something like this, which to people who maybe don't know your background seems out of your comfort zone.
Well, it's funny because it's very much my comfort zone because growing up, I was really turned on to Motown, Philly soul, R&B before that. Let's see, I saw Otis Redding when I was about 15. I saw Solomon Burke when I was about 10. So that was really my wheelhouse. And I think my whole philosophy has always been there's two kinds of music, good and bad. And I'd much rather listen to great Motown than bad rock, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, there's always been some of that influence, even in the music I've done with KISS. It's not always as obvious, but if I point it out, it's it's there. It's there in the mix. Any good recipe has a lot of ingredients, and I think that rock and roll is at its best when it draws from different things. So for me, at some point, I wanted to selfishly go back and do the kind of music that I grew up loving. I loved the Delphonics, Blue Magic, the Spinners, Stylistics, Al Green, Temps. You know, it goes on and on and on. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I made some phone calls, and really it was either God's work or the planets lining up. But everybody who I called who had amazing pedigrees, most of them had not played with each other, but they had played with Smokey or Stevie. One was the musical director for Whitney Houston and Natalie Cole. I mean, it just went on and on. And everybody I called and said, I want to do a big band, you know, and faithfully pay homage to all that great music. And everybody just went, I'm in. And here it is 5 years later, I think. And it's been amazing. I mean, we really are like a family of multi ethnicities and backgrounds. Everybody hangs out at my house, and we just have a ball. But I think what comes across in the music and comes across when you see us live is how much the band is having a ball together. And mind you, when we played the Roxy, we've been together, I think, 2 weeks.
Are you
So
serious?
yeah, yeah. So we've been together 2 weeks at that point, and at this point we've done. Let's see. In Japan, we did 12 shows in 6 days. We've hopscotched around and done a bunch of shows, and then it just became, you know, this is too good to not record, and we just said, let's do an album.
What has been the general reaction to it? As I said at the Roxy, it was very positive. But have you noticed, at least initially, people were skeptical about this idea? Have you noticed anyone being surprised by it? Surprised by how, you know, this rock guy that they know from KISS is so, being faithful to the magic of these songs and pulling it off? Like, what's been the general arc of the reaction? Does it go from skepticism to surprise or anything like that?
All of the above. There are skeptics who then go, wow, this is great. And there are people who aren't interested at all. And for me, it's kind of like your loss. It's kind of like if you say, I don't like a certain food and you don't even taste it, or you taste it with the mindset that you don't like it. Look, I didn't do this to make converts, because convert means that you're trying to convince people. I did this for me. And usually when I do something I love doing, it finds its audience. And look, I've gotten, you know, from Tony Braxton to Paul Rogers, and a whole lot of people have gone, this is awesome. I mean, a pretty funny story was I spend time with Rod Stewart from time to time at Starbucks. And one day we were talking, and I said, you know, I've got, you know, my 15-piece soul band. He goes, what? He goes, He goes, well, who sings? And I go, I do. And he goes, you can handle that stuff? I said, okay. And then I played him a bunch of it. And he, for 2 days afterwards, whether it was to his daughter uh, or my wife, everybody was like, have you heard Paul's band? So look, the people that really matter are giving it big thumbs up. And that's really the most important thing for me, was that I did it, that I put this great band together, that we've done an awesome album that not only pays tribute to all these great old songs, but brings it into the present with new songs. So, hey, mission accomplished. Everything above this is icing on the cake.
Well, I have two questions related to what you just said. And the first one is, I never doubted that you could handle this vocally, but it's a different style of singing than you normally do or that people expect from you. How did you, what do you have to do vocally to sing these songs? And is that a challenge for you compared to, your day job, so to speak?
What do you have to do vocally? You have to lay back. Um, you know, um, it's really the subtlety, but if you really think about it, the middle of I Was Made for Loving You is falsetto.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom, I did falsetto. Um, uh, it's, I always think of myself not as a rock singer. I'm a singer who sings rock. In other words, that's a choice.
Mm.
And any preconceived ideas or boundaries that other people put on me either don't apply or they don't know. So um, these songs are all dear to me and mean a lot to me. And I am not Smokey Robinson. I'm not Al Green. I'm certainly not Levi Stubbs. But to do these songs, it didn't mean to mimic or do a Rich Little impersonation of someone. Hey, and now we're going to do, it's me singing those
Yeah.
songs. And I want to be true to the intent and the feeling behind the songs. But I'm not trying to copy anybody.
Right.
But those are big shadows.
Well, of the songs, of the 9 cover songs, the classics that you do on the album, the lead single is "Ooh Child" by the Five Stairsteps. So you described in your press release about how the message of this song, when you were speaking about songs being near and dear to you, it has this message of optimism and hope. And you talked about how, it's needed more than ever, maybe even more than when it was originally written. Can you talk to me about your connection to this particular track and why you led with this one?
When I first heard the song, it just had this aura of faith and singing to somebody that one day we're going to get this right and we're going to make it the way it's supposed to be. And we'll walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. It's eloquent and it's poignant, but it's street. I mean, it's not highbrow. That's what I love about so much of this music, is that it taps into emotion without being too highfalutin, so to speak. It goes right to the heart of it. So, "Ooh Child" really felt like a song for now. And I found that when I played it for other people, they said, "Wow, this is a song. This is a song that really applies now." And I have to agree.
So it's interesting because I follow you and I follow Gene Simmons on social media as well. And you're very, speaking of the times we're in, the troubled times we're in, both of you are very outspoken in your own ways on social media. And you have been very outspoken about wearing masks, which I think is great because the ultimate masked men of rock and roll are KISS. Like you had ironically an album once called Unmasked, but now you're talking about how wearing masks. And I applaud you for that a lot. And I'm curious about your stance on that because sometimes I see the comments on your Instagram or whatever, even something as innocent as you just out for a bike ride with a mask on. Some of the comments are like, yay, thank you. But some of them are absolutely the opposite of that. So tell me a little bit about the fact that you've taken that stance.
It's unfortunate that some people are vehemently against it, mainly because of the uh, it being politicized. Um, there's so much strange backlash, and when somebody says, well, the experts, they said don't wear a mask, and then they said wear a mask. Right. because this is a work in progress and we're learning about this virus. So is it going to change? Is the information going to change? Of course it's going to change. But unequivocally, what's been shown, as far as I can see, is that masks are a great deterrent. And depending upon what mask you wear, you're either protecting the people around you or you're protecting yourself. You go into N95 masks and KN95 masks, and you're protecting yourself in addition. Um, so look, I wish everybody well, and I would like to think that I'm doing my part to spread the information I have, and if some people are angered by it, that's something they should think about, because it's nothing to get angry about. I mean, if you disagree, so be it.
Well, in general, KISS in general have never really been thought of as a political band, but on social media means, even if it's not necessarily stuff you're singing about in your songs, you have that platform for your voice. How do you feel about people who maybe say that people like you or Gene, who have your own political views, shouldn't should just shut up and sing? Especially now when I think about you're doing a lot of songs from the 60s, which was a time when many artists were political and making a difference.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, times have changed, because there was a time where I thought, well, you know, entertainers should just entertain. But the fact is that, I mean, quite frankly, I see myself as a citizen. And I think that my voice is at least as important as anyone else's. And to not be able to voice my opinion seems, actually, it seems un-American. And this it's not surprising to me at this point, the people who say shut up are the people who don't agree. If I was on your side, you go, yeah, keep talking. But it's not a surprise that the people who would like people like me to not voice an opinion are the people who are on the other side of the fence. And that's too bad. That's sad, because again, I don't want to politicize anything. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to help. I'm trying to make people aware that perhaps we can end this pandemic a little bit sooner, and with some less fatality. So it's not a matter of who you vote for, or conspiracies or anything like that. It's just, I just want to help.
I'm happy that you're doing it. Again, I commend you for everything you're doing. How are you feeling about, like, where's your mind at right now with the touring situation? Obviously, the KISS End of the Road tour had to be postponed. I know you did the big event in Dubai, but the general tour had to be postponed. I imagine, since I saw the joy you got from doing the Soul Station stuff when you'd only been together for 2 weeks, which I did not realize at the time because you guys were very tight-willed oil machine already by that point. I imagine now that you have this album coming out, it's a little bittersweet to not be able to present the album live right now. How are you feeling about, the fact that COVID has sort of put all, you're a live performer. Must be tough.
Actually, it's more sweet than bitter, because the End of the Road tour is right now on hold. We did about 120 shows. And quite honestly, anyone who thinks that tomorrow or next month there's going to be big outdoor concerts or indoor concerts is in for a disappointment. It's just not going to happen for any band, because beyond the fact that people haven't been vaccinated, there's no herd immunity or anything of that sort. Promoters aren't going to be able to get insurance. So there's no actual tours or shows coming up. Are people announcing shows? Sure. Uh, can they cancel those shows or postpone them? They will. So that being said, the sweet part about it for me is it's much more realistic for Soul Station to play, because we can play smaller venues, and it's a much more practical scenario. So uh, while KISS and the rest of major touring is shut down, it's a great time for Soul Station to to kind of flex its muscles, and we're just can't wait. We're texting every day. We're on the phones. It really is a great little family.
So as I mentioned, the lead single from the Soul Station project is Ooh Child by the Five Stair Steps. You talked about how that song was so relevant to the times. It has a very hopeful message. When you were picking the other cover songs on the album from that era, mostly the 60s, were there other songs you gravitated towards because of their relevance in 2020, 2021?
I think I gravitated toward I think I gravitated towards certain songs because of their timelessness. Um, I think a lot of that music, whether it's Philly soul or Stax Volt or Atlantic or Motown, a lot of those songs are eloquent in their relationship to a single person or situation. And I tended to go towards songs that really weren't overtly muscle flexing masculinity. Um, I like the idea of um, somebody singing softly, whether it's Smokey or Russell Tompkins in the stylistics, or Eddie Kendricks. I think there's a place for masculinity that doesn't rely on testosterone, in an overt sense. So um, I tended towards songs like uh, Just My Imagination, or Ooh Baby Baby, or You Are Everything. So that's kind of where I was going. I didn't want to. I didn't want an album of shouters, quite honestly. I didn't want to go for Edwin Starr, Wilson Pickett, Eddie Levert. There's a lot of great singers out there and a lot of great songs, but I was feeling something else because the album was the byproduct of live shows, and the live shows were really about people um, coming together and about relationships. You would see somebody in the audience as soon as a certain song would start, they go, and it would just spark a memory, or the person next to them, how they met, or whatever. So that's what I wanted to capture on the album, was not the band is a steamroller, but we're we're uh, we're wrapped in velvet.
That could have been a good album title or song title, maybe for the next one. Well, that my ears pricked up when you said that. I'd love to discuss a bit of that, the idea of this kind of different idea of masculinity, because I think a lot of people, when they think of your main band, Kiss, they think hyper masculinity, your superheroes, jeans spitting blood, fire flying through the air, platform shoes that look like dragons, like it's super comic book. I think that's why a lot of young boys loved Kiss back in the day when you guys were first starting out, because of it seeming very macho, I guess. But there's this other side to what you do. Do you have any kind of thoughts on maybe how people think that Kiss are this super macho thing when there's actually a soft side to it?
Well, I think that the yin and yang has always been Gene and I.
Mm-hmm.
And look, on stage, I I guess the word sometimes that comes up is flamboyant, you know, and I'm very comfortable in who I am, my sexual orientation, and anything that goes with that. So I don't think that contradicts um, wanting to um, be, um, whether it's flamboyant or show a different side. Just being up there flexing my muscles, it doesn't make you more machismo. It kind of at some point gets a little old. So I think I've always demonstrated on stage a real comfort with just freedom.
Do you have, does Kiss have a weird, I had not thought to ask this, but since we got in, does Kiss have any sort of a like a queer fan base because of the fact that you come from the glam background and the gender bending thing? I know the New York Dolls were like a big influence on Kiss. Like people, like I said, people might think of Kiss as being this super macho thing, but I imagine your audience is maybe more inclusive than people realize because of the things you said.
Well, firstly, the Dolls really weren't an influence. They
Are
came
they
out of New York City, but
okay?
we were kind of like the antithesis of that. Those guys looked amazing, but their waists were the size of my wrist. So, so when we first started out, we tended initially to go the same route as other bands in New York and go for kind of like a femme kind of look. But quite honestly, we look like linebackers dressed for a Halloween party. So we quickly changed that. But as far as who our audience is so diversified, and for me to go, hey, we have some of those people, or it's kind of, it's pointless.
Okay.
We're proud of everybody who comes to see us, and the most important thing that I think uh, transfers and translates into life is being comfortable with who you are and being proud of who you are.
Hmm.
So whether it's gay pride or black pride, whatever it is, you have every right to be proud of who you are. And we are welcoming to everybody because we're not here to judge, and in that case, there's nothing to judge.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to put it out there because Rob Halford once told me that he wanted to be on RuPaul's Drag Race. And if there was a Kiss RuPaul's Drag Race challenge where the drag queens had to do like their drag queen interpretation of the Kiss makeup and look, I'm just saying that would be some good TV. I'm just going to put it out there.
It would be bizarre. That's certainly good, good, good and bizarre.
But I see, the whole makeup thing, which, I think now we look back on Kiss and maybe don't think it's so shocking because it's become this iconic thing and a branded thing. But like, everyone knows you could do a stencil and just show people and they would know it's Kiss. But at the time it was, probably considered, you could tell me how it went over initially, when you started to do it.
Well, yeah, I think that initially some people saw it as wild and destructive. And I think that, well, first of all, that makes for good rock and roll because that's the reaction that people should have on the outskirts of it. But I'll say that people sometimes who are, shall we say, more sedentary, and stay put, um, tend to see anything that's energetic as destructive because it's overwhelming to them. We've always been high energy, and that's it. The idea that, if anything, we've always preached self-empowerment and succeeding at what you do. We've never sung about destroying. So um, I was a bit baffled by that in the beginning, but it, there was a purpose to it for some people, and it was to get themselves on television or to have people rally behind a cause that was really based on falsehoods.
So we were talking about flamboyance on stage, and I've asked you about this before when I interviewed you guys at the junket for End of the Road. But you are the best banterer in the biz. I'm sure you're aware of the compilation, Let Me Get This Off My Chest, on YouTube. An hour of your banter, and I would happily purchase it. Like, please tell me about the banter on stage you do. I don't know how much of it is improv, how much of it is, kind of scripted in your head. But man, I mean, it's as entertaining as the music itself to me.
You know, I'm trying to entertain myself. And that's really where it starts. Even what I do on stage physically is kind of like, I wonder if I can do this, or wouldn't it be cool if I spun around and did, So um, it really grew out of when we first started out. I wanted to, as much as possible, keep people from ridiculing us when they first saw us, because let's face it, you go into a club and see a bunch of guys that look like we did, your first instinct might be to chuckle. So we would play clubs and I would say, you know, we haven't played this club for so long because we've been playing everywhere else. Well, no, we were sitting in our loft, you know, trying to get a gig. And I also found in the beginning, well, if I put on this voice, um, it would separate me from that character. And I hate to say I became it, but in the beginning, it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You know, it was like, you know, it was born out of putting a shield up, um, and it just became really entertaining for everybody. And I loved that part of me, and I loved doing it, and I loved being that. And you know, at this point, I tell people, some people will meet me and go, "Wow, you're so quiet," and I go, "Look, you know, we're talking one on one, but if I'm talking to 100,000 people, 20,000 people, if I talk like this, I might as well have like a Persian rug and a stool, and you know, instead I'm like, how you doing? You know, so yeah, because I want everybody to feel that they're a part of this experience. And I'm not only talking to the person in the front row, I'm talking to the person all the way in the back.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have minded if you did the entire interview in that voice. I just would have had to turn the volume down on my
Yes.
earbuds just a little bit. But
Whoa.
have you ever, what are your thoughts on the fact that someone made that kind of bootleg compilation of like all your best bits?
Well, they either a very devoted fan or they have too much time on their hands.
So another anniversary that's happening this year, from 1971, so 50 years ago, was the whole Wicked Lester album that didn't come out, and which was, for people watching this who don't know, like the proto Kiss, I guess is the way to describe it. And I really like the music I've heard from that, and I'm wondering if there were any soul elements in that, because there's elements of actually some folk and Baroque pop in it. But taking it back to Soul Station, do you think there's anything from that early incarnation of KISS that sort of foretold the Soul Station thing?
Well, again, I think that I was young and trying on shoes that were too big for me. Um, there's a couple of songs on there that to me sound like a kid trying to sing Tom Jones, you know. um, so I certainly had roots back then. I mean, I had already seen Solomon Burke, I had seen Otis, you know, but you know, you have to mature to a point to be able to do that and not come off kitschy or campy. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Wicked Lester album was Gene and I and three other guys in the studio for a year, basically following a producer's directions, because we were green, and in the course of that year, uh, if a song came out, a hit song, and had a banjo on it, well, let's throw a banjo on this hit song. And then next week, a song had uh, a horn on it, you know, a flugelhorn. Oh, we got to do a flugelhorn. So it was really a mishmash. And by the time it was done, Gene and I just were looking at each other and going, you know, this isn't where we want to be. So we had spent a year building something, and we were so um, stuck and so driven to what we wanted to do that we basically threw it away. We uh, tried to get rid of the other members of the band, and when they wouldn't go, we said, okay, we quit. So we left, and the album got shelved. And when the first Kiss album was coming out, and we were first making some noise, so to speak, Epic decided to release that album. And that was going to be a real problem because we were establishing a certain identity and a certain continuity to our image and our sound throughout the album. And they were going to put out this rather eclectic album, and they kind of actually they dangled it in front of us, and Gene and I coughed up a ridiculous amount of money at the time to buy it so that it would never come out.
But I do think there were elements of that record that I think, when you look back at Wikileaks, or the things you look back now that you're like, oh, okay, that was good.
Um, well, there were a few songs that needed to be corrected, so to speak. We did She, we redid that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those songs um, just aren't great. Um, it's like looking at your baby pictures. Um, I'm not embarrassed by it. Again, it almost goes back to what you were saying. And as far as I'm concerned, everything you do gets you to where you are today. So I don't think there's any mistakes. Um,
Awesome.
every turn you take ultimately gets you, you may not know where you're going, but, sooner or later you get there.
And then to bring it back full circle to the present, and to, like I said, you've had many different iterations in your career, tried many different things. The Soul Station project, as you said, it's mostly covers, but there's what, five originals on the
Yeah.
album?
Yeah.
How, as my last question would be, when you were writing those songs, how were you trying to, write modern songs that evoked the past and could be on the same track list with these time-tested, timeless songs?
I didn't want to write modern songs, so to speak, um, and I wasn't trying to put on a different hat. I wasn't trying to reinvent myself. Um, I was so immersed with Soul Station and with the people as friends and with recording the album that I just, as we were doing it, I thought we should have one new song. So I wrote Save Me, and it came out so good that I went, oh, maybe I'll write another one. And I did. And that just kept happening. And the great thing about it, honestly, was that everybody who's heard the album before release goes, it's seamless. You can't really tell
Mm-hmm.
what's old and what's new.
So true.
So that's what I love about it, is that it makes a transition into the present without, it's not new and improved. It's just more of the same.
I do actually agree. I will admit, when I was looking at when I was listening to the album, to the advance of the album, and looking at the credits and the track listing, I did have to kind of double check and read the credits to be like, which are the originals and which are the covers. I mean, with the exception, of course, like very obvious one, like Tracks of My Tears, which we all know is a cover. But I had to be like, is that a cover or is that an original? And I think that's the ultimate compliment to, and ultimate testament to the fact that this music means so much to you, is that you were able to do that.
Yeah, I've had people whose opinions I respect and are either solo performers or songwriters who've said, tell me about that. Who originally did that song? And I go, uh, that's a new song, So it's as it should be. It feels great, and I want us to build what we do on the past, but not just live there.
Thank you so much for this chat. We covered so much ground from the past, present, and hopefully the future, when we get to see Soul Station perform this live. If you come back to the Roxy, I will absolutely be there. It will be a
I'll look
good
for
time.
you.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Sure.